What's an easy and ingenuous way to elevate your writing to the next level? This way works down into the words you place on the page, in character descriptions, setting development, plot dynamics. It's like a secret language that most readers don't know about, even as their subconscious recognizes that secret language. In many respects, it's global, recognized everywhere, and if no one spots it, which is always the goal, this secret gives you a satisfactory glow every time you touch it onto the page. What is this easy and ingenuous way? Symbols. Welcome to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers, newbies and veterans, and everyone in between. We're hosted by M.A. Lee with the assistance of Remy Black and Edie Rooms, all from Writers Inc. Books. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Each episode lasts as long as it takes to fix a quick dinner, drive a short commute, or take a brisk walk. Resources and links are in the show notes. Visit us at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Now, on to this week's episode. In the world of storycraft enhancements, symbols belong to the realm of the interpretive. Readers and writers who have had a classical style background, one that delved into the meanings behind a writer's intent, will have an overview understanding of the language of symbols. I'm not talking about numerology or the arcane world of the occult, although we see crossover because these spheres often delve into meanings that are millennia old. Any writer who presents figurative language and disguises some elements and drops clues to others, that writer is working in the interpretive realm. Writers drop hints to meaning consciously and subconsciously all through their works. Leaving glimpses for an astute audience to find becomes a reward for the writer when readers cared enough to find the puzzle and piece together the meaning. The best writers constantly craft these thematic glimpses, like the colored shards of a stained glass window. The easily accessible surface story rewards all the readers. The discovered fragments pieced together create a second, stronger reward of deeper understanding. Does every writer leave these hints? Did Shakespeare deliberately work in the elements of the Roman cultural hero when he wrote Henry V? He certainly knew enough about the blood tragedy developed by the Roman dramatist Seneca. He follows every element of it in Hamlet. As for Henry V, who knows? Did Edgar Allan Poe understand the classic meanings of numbers? His poem Dreamland and many others work with the symbolic 3, 6, and 18. Poe is a craftsman of words, with The Raven a perfect example of a deliberately crafted poem. Perhaps he discovered the symbolic meanings during his brief term at public school in England. This American writer, a thwarted poet known more for his short stories like The Fall of the House of Usher and The Cask of Amontillado and The Pit and the Pendulum, followed the pattern of the English Romantic poets, not his fellow American poets, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow and Ralph Waldo Emerson, the essayist and poet. But who knows what Poe knew? We only know what Poe himself tells us, that he deliberately crafted the Raven. Every word is a choice to develop a goal. Unless writers completely present their purpose, we can only guess at their intentions. Even if we asked a writer of the past or present or future about their use of symbols and the interpretations of their works, we may not get a truthful answer. The subconscious might have operated strongly. The writer may not even recognize what happened on the page. Or the writer may want the readers to figure out the meaning for themselves. When elements open up interpretations which are far beyond the surface meanings, when they appear consistently and continually, our suspicions are awakened, but who knows if we are right in reaching to the depths? The point? The interpretive hides meaning and scatters clues for those who wish to dig deeper. To check for an interpretation's accuracy, or to create an interpretation based on symbols, our first guide is the work's theme. The second is to locate clues. Titles are the first clues. Motifs, those recurring phrases and images, are a second clue. Elements of the poem or story that are similar, different kinds of wine, for example, in Poe's Amontillado, that offers another set of clues. In Toni, Cade, Bambera's Blues Ain't No Mockingbird, the title is the clue to the family situation. Bambera's theme is that false images created by stereotyping and prejudice must be shattered. Clues to the theme come with the first and last events in a story, always important, just as the first and last words of a protagonist are significant. The story opens with children jumping on a frozen puddle, cracking and breaking the ice-stilled water, symbolic of a false frozen image being broken. The last event is when the grandfather cracks open a filming camera, exposing the film so it is ruined but not damaging the camera. False images and that broken camera are repeated in Bambera's story. The writer seeking to learn is rewarded by a close study of Blues Ain't No Mockingbird. In James Hurst, The Scarlet Ibis, birds are symbolic. The title clues us to the upcoming connection between a main character and the ibis. Therefore, every bird in the story becomes important. A red cardinal sings in a tree, which is an early warning of the coming ibis. The red represents wounds and sacrifice. Marsh crows and egrets fly away when disturbed by the two main characters. The crow, black, equals death. The egret, white, equals innocence. Innocence will be destroyed in the story. The damage from a hurricane is described as a hawk ripping at the entrails of a chicken. A predatory bird attacks a weaker bird, symbols of the protagonist and antagonist. An owl flies out of a casket. The owl represents wisdom. The casket represents death. Wisdom comes after death. There are many more bird instances during the course of that story. At the story's 75% mark, the ibis appears, sick, then dead. Each descriptive detail repeated when the sick character dies, from the opened beak as an opened mouth, the tilted back heads of both, the crossed scrawny legs, and length of thick string matched to the ropey rein. In Hurst's story, the symbolic birds enrich an already wealthy narrative in support of the theme that all of us have a knot of cruelty, which makes us destroy those we love, and thus we also destroy ourselves. Writers offer these broken stained glass shards as clues to meaning. We have the obvious symbols of numbers and colors, usually developed through imagery. Writers also work with the ancient global symbols of archetype and allegory, and we have allusions, which are shortcuts to a wealth of meaning. Allusions are usually not classified with symbols. Symbols are concrete items that stand for additional knowledge, such as the owl representing wisdom, red representing wounds and sacrifice, 7 representing perfection. Symbols offer additional knowledge. Allusions unlock additional knowledge. Run across a reference to Napoleon's Waterloo in a novel. Someone has met an event that he or she cannot overcome. Or there's a reference to Naomi and Ruth. A guiding woman is supported by a younger woman. Or Achilles' heel. A person who seems invincible has a hidden and unexpected weakness. Thus, allusions are clues to unlock deeper meaning, just as symbols do, and that's why they both belong in the interpretive realm. Because of this commonality, and because many allusions require the audience to understand the reference, allusions function like a secret language. Just like the secret language of symbols, our starting point. We'll talk about allusions in a later episode. Many symbols will have positive and negative connotations, very clear in the numbers. Let's look at symbolic numbers. Number 1 equals our self, our rank, highest, independence. Solitude, positive, our loneliness, negative. We talk of people being number 1 or first in line, the best one. I, me, and mine represent the self. 2 represents companionship and love, but also deception. 2 heads are better than 1, we hear. We have friends, but we always have one who is our BFF, best friend forever. Love is 2 hearts entwined. The yin and yang of 2 opposites create a whole. On the negative side, 2 equals lies and trickery, 2-faced people who say one thing but mean another. 3 represents mystery. Mythologies are filled with 3s, the Fates, the Norns, the Erinyes, the Furies. The 9 Greek muses are grouped in 3s, 3 poetry, 3 performance, 3 scholarly pursuits. We have the Trinity and the 3 Magi. Celtic myth has the Triskelion and the maiden, mother, crone, embodiment of a goddess. All of these are mysterious and inexplicable, far beyond normal knowledge. In the realm of composition, we have logos, pathos, and ethos. The Porphyrian tree divides everything into three classifications, such as positive, negative, and neutral. Science itself is divided into formal, mathematics-based, natural, and social. The U.S. Constitution sets up three branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. All learning is either visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. We have the past, present, future, mind, body, soul, carnivores, herbivores, and omnivores. 4 is a number that represents the global, the completeness, Earth. As representative of Earth, we have the 4 directions: north, south, east, and west, unless you have followed the Native American 7 directions: north, south, east, and west, up and down, and where you were yesterday. We also have the 4 base elements of earth, air, water, and fire. We collect 4-leaf clovers for luck. Science has the 4 states: liquid, solid, gas, and plasma. Proteins, lipids, carbs, and acids make up all macrobiotics. The 4 math operations are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Myths are mystical, cosmological, sociological, and pedagogical. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are the Antichrist, war, famine, and pestilence. We read the 4 Gospels to study the life of Christ. The 4 medieval states are the nobility, the clergy, the urban dwellers, and the rural dwellers. In the U.S., when we talk about the 4th estate, we extended the 3 branches of the government to the role of the journalistic press as a watchdog for the people. Finance talks of income, earnings and expenses, balance sheet, assets of liquidity and capital, cash flow, income and outgo for a particular time frame, and retained earnings, which is changes in equity. The 4 skills of language are writing, reading, speaking, and listening. The 4 arts of language are composition, writing, comprehension, reading nonfiction and fiction, oration, speaking, and syntax, grammar, usage, and mechanics rules. In medieval instruction, the 4 liberal arts of the quadrivium that are dependent on the trivium, grammar, logic, and rhetoric, are arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. The 4 arts of the Chinese scholar are qi, a stringed instrument, qi, the strategy game of Go, shu, calligraphy, and hua, painting. And please forgive my pronunciations and my mispronunciations. 5 is 1/2 of 10. 5 is one hand, half of both hands, and what both hands can do. It represents limits. Since 10 means completion, 5 is halfway to completion, the limits to our aspirations. 5 also represents balance, both sides equal. Fractal geometry is dependent on the number 5. The musical staff is on 5 lines. It takes both treble and bass staffs to create full harmony. Irene Hunt's Across 5 Aprils uses the symbolic halfway 5 as a key element in the last 10th chapter. The story's setting is the northern home front during the American Civil War. Her protagonist has achieved maturity, yet the nation itself has not. The nation will need 100 more years, 1976 was the bicentennial of the USA, to achieve the freedom of rights that was a chief purpose of the last years of the Civil War. In that last chapter, the reportage of Abraham Lincoln's death embodies the limits to aspiration at that time frame. In mythology, we have Hesiod's 5 ages of man: golden, silver, bronze, heroic, and iron. The Aztecs believed that they lived in the age of the 5th sun. To the 4 base elements, earth, air, water, and fire, the Hindu added the celestial to total the mystical 5. 5 is considered the most common structure in nature. We have 5 senses. Natural man is a 5, 1 head, 2 arms, and 2 legs. The apple has 5 leaves on a stem, 5 seeds, and a star-shaped center. The starfish and the sand dollar are 5s. Only crystals do not have structures with 5s. 6 represents doubled mystery, while the 4 is the doubled 2. The 6 is the doubled 3 and the tripled 2. Mathematics considers 6 to be the first perfect number, which equals 1 plus 2 plus 3. When all the number divisors are added, the total equals the number itself. It's the highest number of normal dice, although modern dice is managing to crowd on more dots. Doubled mystery increases secrecy. Therefore, 6 is the number associated with the occult, the word that means hidden, concealed, from the Latin occultus and oculare, cover over or conceal. It represents the hidden. The cube is a three-dimensional solid of 6 sides or faces, and some crystals are structures like cubes. The sixth sense, one more than our natural 5, represents the extra sense, the one beyond the natural world, thus the supernatural. Braille uses 6 dots to form all of its letters. Flutes and guitars are based on 6, with holes and strings. Beehives are hexagons, 6-sided. Ants, bees, and all insects have 6 legs. The Star of David is a 6-pointed star, 2 reverse triangles overlaid. Solomon's seal interlaces the 2 triangles so that attacking demons would become confused, unable to reach this wisest of kings. Buddhism has the 6 spheres trapped in the wheel of life. 666 is the number of the great beast. Snowflakes are symmetrical in their 6 sides. Karu Ishikawa, the father of Japanese quality, tracked the causes of product defects through process variation, changes in the manufacture of the product, which he called the 6M: method, materials, machines, measurement, man, and Mother Nature. The world's creation occurred on 6 days. Let there be light, the sky above the waters of the earth, our atmosphere in outer space, the dry land separated from the wet, the stars and other heavenly bodies, living creatures of sky and sea, and finally all creatures that exist on the dry land. 7 is perfection, the absolute. We have the 7 days of the week and the 7 colors of the rainbow. God created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th he rested. The 7 wonders of the ancient world are the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Giza Pyramid, Alexandria's Lighthouse, Artemis's Temple at Ephesus, Zeus's statue at Olympia, Rhodes' Colossus, and the Halicarnassus Mausoleum. The modern world's list often includes these: San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge, the Empire State Building, Toronto's CN Tower, the Channel Tunnel between Britain and France under the English Channel, Brazil's Itaipu Dam, the Zuiderzee Works for Land Reclamation in the Netherlands, and the Panama Canal. The 7 natural wonders are the Grand Canyon of North America, the near-perfect cinder cone of Paracutan in Mexico, the Northern Lights, Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, and now called Mosi Oatunya, please forgive my pronunciation, or the Smoke That Thunders, the Great Barrier Reef, and the natural harbor of Rio de Janeiro with its 100+ islands. 7 deadly sins? We have 7 virtues to counter them. Pride is countered by humility, envy by kindness, gluttony by abstinence, lust by chastity, wrath by patience, greed by giving, and sloth by diligence. We have 7 basic musical notes: do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. The next do creates an octave, while it also starts the next sequence of musical notes. In the Hindu wedding ceremony, the couple walks 7 steps before being declared married. Islam claims 7 heavens and 7 earths, 7 fires in hell, and 7 doors to heaven and to hell. The world has 7 continents. The 7 steps of the scientific method are observational questioning, research, hypothesis, experimentation, analysis of results, conclusion, and reportage. And 7 has the highest probability of being rolled in any dice game. 8 represents rebirth, one more than perfection of 7. 8 represents starting anew, thus rebirth or renewal. It is sometimes called the miraculous number, for it represents a higher level than nature. Besides renewal, 8 also is partway between the 10 of completion and the halfway 5, so it represents that someone or something is on the road to completion. In the Jewish religion, man's transcendence of his base human nature is represented by 8. The number recurs in the temple services. The holy priest 8 vestments, the 8 spices, 4 for oil, 4 for incense, the poles that carry the vessel into the sanctuary, and 7 instruments plus the choir. Hanukkah is 8 days long. In Islam, 8 angels carry the throne of Allah. Chinese demigods number 8, as the ancient Egyptian myth has 8 gods of creation. Wicca has 8 spokes of its year, and Scientology has 8 dynamics of existence. The piano has 88 keys. You play on 8 times 8 squares for chess or checkers. All spiders have 8 legs. The infinity symbol is a sideways 8. 9 equals intensified mystery, 3 plus 3 plus 3. The 9 muses of Greek myth are divided into 3s: poetry epic, erotic and lyric, tragedy, comedy and dance, and astronomy, history, and songs to the gods. Christianity has 9 choirs of angels and 9 fruit of the Holy Spirit. For Hebrews, the number is symbolic of truth, certainly an intensified mystery. In Hinduism and the Baha'i faith, 9 is a completed divine number. Demeter searched for 9 days and 9 nights before she discovered that Persephone was kidnapped by Hades. The Aztec and Mayan underworlds have 9 levels, as does Dante's Inferno. The Aeneid, which began in ancient Greece, postulates 9 different personalities. Norse myth has more 9s than 3s, 9 worlds supported by Yggdrasil, 9 days of feasting every 9 years at Uppsala, 9 great dragons like Jormungandr, 8 golden drops released on every 9th night, and 9 gods who survive Ragnarok. The Valknut has 3 interlocking triangles with 9 points. We talk of the 9 lives of cats. A stitch in time saves 9, and possession is 9/10 of the law. 10 represents completion, fulfillment. 10 digits on both hands, 10 toes. 10 plagues of Egypt, 10 commandments of Exodus, 10 lost tribes of Israel. We give 1/10 of our income to God, who gave our income to us. For Pythagoras, the decad is based on shapes. The 3 beginning shapes are the monad, circle, dyad, divided circle, and the triad, triangle. Combine these to have the pentad. The decad is the monad, dyad, and pentad together, 1 times 2 times 5, and symbolizes the world and heaven and creation. The Greek war against Troy raged for 10 years, and Odysseus took another 9 to reach home, returning in the 10th year. The Roman X, representing 10, is considered a figure of completion and fulfillment. The X represents the cross of Christ, for his crucifixion completed his earthly mission to atone for all human sins. 11 is a transitional number which came to mean death. With 10 as completion, 11 is 1 step across that. Thus, it is a threshold number. Death is considered a threshold as people transition from this existence to the next existence, whether that is in heaven or hell, the netherworld or Hades, the Elysian Fields and asphodel meadows included. Many other religions and beliefs have faith in an afterlife. Literature, except modern and postmodern, presupposes that humans have an existence after death, whatever that after existence may be. So it's this existence crossing the threshold of death and the after existence. In literature, death is not a stoppage. After Judas Iscariot's betrayal, the apostles came to be known as the 11. Jesus appeared 11 times after his crucifixion. The disciples drew lots to determine who would become the 12th apostles. 11 of the 12 died martyrs' deaths. Only John of the Gospels died a natural death. In Basque, 11 has the second meaning of infinity. The Maltese labyrinth has 11 circuits. Curiously enough, the sunspot cycle repeats about every 11 years. 12 represents man's relationship to a higher being, God. Look at these 12s. 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles of Christ, 12 signs of the Greek zodiac, 12 cycles in the Chinese years, 12 chief gods of Olympus, Zoroastrian's 12 commanders on the side of light, Dionys's 12 domains of the sun, Buddhism's 12 stations of life, 12 symbols of alchemy, 12 cranial nerves in our body, and 12 ribs in our bodies doubled. Jacob and Ishmael both have 12 sons. Eastern Orthodoxy observes 12 great feasts. The 12 days of Christmas celebrates the feast days from Christmas to the Epiphany. We count 12 months of the year, unless following the number of moons in a year. Each year will actually have 13 moons, However, a year only has 12 complete lunations, movements through all of the phases. Also, we have 12 hours on a clock, repeated for a double 12, and all of our time increments are divisible by 12 into smaller complete units as opposed to tens. The 12 measure units create manageable blocks of time, whereas numbers that are divisors of 10 author too many blocks with not enough workable time within them. 12 jurors sit in judgment of their fellow human. 13 is considered unlucky. 1 more than 12, the mysterious 3 more than 10, and 5 more than renewal, 8. 6 plus 7. 13 is one step beyond man's relationship with God. Therefore, it came to be considered unlucky because man stepped beyond God rather than depending upon him. What else stepped beyond God? Fallen angels. What causes those steps beyond God? Pride, chief of the 7 deadly sins. Challenging the gods, as Tantalus discovered, is never wise. When we think we do not need God, which we speculate as the thought process, then we quickly discover how infinite is the universe and how small and little our own selves. Stepping beyond a higher being is not wise. It's unlucky. Thus, 13 gradually came to mean the unlucky number. Jury plus judge is 13 against the accused. Wow, that's a lot. How do we use symbolic numbers? We sneak them in everywhere. Working in threes is the preferred number for repetition. Threes are significant to any audience, spoken or written or visual. Most will hear the first mention but think nothing of it. A second mention sounds like coincidence. The third mention is magic for our readers and the audience. A good comic will set up a joke with an unusual phrase, cycle back to that phrase in a later joke, just in passing, then hit that unusual phrase for a clincher of a closing joke. Expectation has been created with the second mention and fulfilled with the third. The humor then has a greater effect on the audience. So that's the effect of 3 in repetition. What about the other numbers? How do we writers use them? Beyond religion and science and the math, numbers are important in the world of literature for devices and tropes that take on mythic gravitas. Symbolic numbers in stories and novels add surprise and depth. Instead of a council of 5, have a council of 4 representing the 4 pillars of earth. Instead of 4 traps, have mysteriously 6. For a protagonist who never achieves his goal, how sad. Have the number 5 constantly pop up. A meeting at 5 o'clock. 5 friends who gave him advice that he never takes. The missed train on platform 5. The 5th missed message from his boss. The 5th time he forgot his anniversary on May 5. When it's time to flesh out the details of our outlined plot, think through the numbers. They will magically assist us. Next week, we'll talk about symbolic colors and times, and we'll have a really good example for that. This has been a long episode. Hopefully next week we'll run a little shorter. Inspiration for this week comes from Honoré de Balzac, who said, "If an artist does not spring to his work as a soldier to the breach, if once within the crater he does not labor as a miner buried in the earth, if he contemplates his difficulties instead of conquering them one by one, the work remains unachieved, production becomes impossible, and the artist assists the suicide of his own talent. The solution of the problem can be found only through incessant and sustained work. True artists, true poets, generate and give birth today, tomorrow, forever. From this habit of labor results a ceaseless comprehension of difficulties, which keep them in communion with the muse and her creative forces. We should all take that to heart, and we should keep working today, tomorrow, and forever. Have a great week." Thanks for listening to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers at all levels, hosted by Emma Lee from Writers Inc. Books, assisted by Renee Black and Edie Runes. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Music is licensed through Audio Jungle, called Background Music Loop. Its creator is Alexander Polishchuk, known on Audio Jungle as Plastic 3. The music comes in different iterations. Show notes and resource links for this and other episodes can be found at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Write to us at winkbooks@aol.com when you have questions, comments, and speculations. We will try to answer you as quickly as possible. By the way, we will not mind your email address. That's rude. If you find value in our content, share with your writing friends or write a review. We're small beans here without the advertising budget of the big peeps, and you can make a difference. And whatever occurs, write on. What's an easy and ingenuous way to elevate your writing to the next level? This way works down into the words you place on the page, in character descriptions, setting development, plot dynamics. It's like a secret language that most readers don't know about, even as their subconscious recognizes that secret language. In many respects, it's global, recognized everywhere, and if no one spots it, which is always the goal, this secret gives you